doing.
He said, I miss human trafficking. Why did you delete it?
It was just deleted by my PR team as I slept. These gotcha moments are 5 or 6 years out of date. Let's be professional, Spears. Why was the DJ unwittingly, he was unaware of what the song was?
Far be it from me to teach you how to answer questions in interviews, is to say that you find what's in the Epstein files utterly disgusting, and celebrating the song Heil Hitler is also disgusting and reprehensible. And if you'd said that, I could respect it.
There's pictures of you with certain members of Epstein's circle.
Well, no, but I'm happy to talk about that. The Jeffrey Epstein saga is undoubtedly one of the biggest scandals in modern history. Many VIP men are now being humbled.
By the way, this is the same guy that's trying to say the Epstein files are somehow Russian propaganda, Russian linked and tied to Putin. It's KGB shit. Give me a break.
By lurid details about their relationship with a convicted sex offender and claims about their own behaviour with his victims. Too few have faced real consequences yet, but the public's in no mood to draw a line and move on. The view that he was an intelligence asset for a foreign government has moved firmly from the realm of conspiracy to mainstream thinking. A reasonable person might think that Andrew Tate is the last person to be moralising on all this. He's fought damning allegations about his own conduct with women in multiple countries for several years. And that, he says, is precisely the problem.
For the last 4 years,
we haven't
the
leered
media
hard
all
enough.
around the world has accused me of sexual crimes. On repeat, over and over, every single day. And now that the Epstein files are out, they're running cover, saying that being found in the Epstein files doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Let me ask you a question. If I was in the Epstein files, Andrew Tate, do you have any idea the media frenzy? Do you have any idea how they would attack me? They would accuse me of things I've done wrong. They would say that there's no smoke without fire, that I'm definitely guilty, that I deserve more prosecution, more house arrest. I was locked in my house for 4 years without being convicted. I've been to court in 3 countries, and not a single court on the planet can convict me of any sexual crimes at all.
Yeah, and I call that. Do you guys remember? I don't know if anybody here will see this later too. Remember, there's a clip where I was talking about a couple of years ago his case, and I was telling you guys how it's like in Romania, and also the sloppy case that they had in general. He was never going to get convicted for any of the trafficking or anything related to women. It was always going to be the money for tax evasion. Sure thing, that's what he's getting charged with, the tax evasion. So he's going to pay his fine and then be let go. What sucks for him, the irony, is that the so-called shitty, corrupt Romania is the only court system he got justice in, because he did hide his money and he didn't pay his taxes, and the way he was running his operations, common sense that's what was going on. But they used women because that was the easiest vector of attack, because he's hanging around whores from Instagram. So he got famous. He used it to get whores. That's your weak point. The system can attack you through women, as every man gets attacked easily. And so what ended up happening is he beats his case. He gets charged with tax evasion. He's going to pay that, and then they're going to send him to the UK. Ironically, in the UK is where he's going to get absolutely by an actual kangaroo court that's already wanting. They're like the jowls. They're absolutely dripping with saliva to get his ass, because they have all those anti-Andrew Tate, anti-misogyny courses they're teaching men. Whatever, something in the UK in that government has a hard-on for whatever he's been saying, or the critiques that he's had against the UK society as a whole. And that, ironically, will be what he's going to get put behind bars for. So I get why he's walking so straight and narrow right now, apologizing for the song and, going on the little humiliation tour from all these podcasts. Because ironically, this is what they're going to use in court in the UK to get him. Isn't that up? You could be in your so-called shithole Romania, corrupt, small country, get justice, actually be a free man, but then when you go to your so-called first world country, that's where you're going to get put behind bars and jailed on a bunk case, no less.
Yet the media still convince everyone
Crazy.
At home and still endlessly print that I'm a bad person while running cover for the people who are in the Epstein files.
Well, Andrew Tate rejoins me on Uncensored now. Andrew, welcome back to Uncensored.
Thank you very much. I hope you're recovering well, sir.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Thank you. So it's an interesting point you raise. I'm not going to relitigate in this interview the outstanding criminal and civil actions that you're facing, other than to repeat what I always say when I interview you, which is as we sit here, you've not been convicted of any crime. And I do think the process that you've gone through has seemed ridiculously long and doesn't serve anybody. So let's just put that to one side for the benefit of this debate. Because I do think you raise an interesting point about the experience you've had and the experience that we are seeing with people in the Epstein files.
Yeah, it's not only ridiculously long, Pierce, it's actually ridiculously harsh. My brother and I have gone to jail. We've been reputationally slandered. We had a company that turned over $150 million a year, which has been economically decimated. And we have been trialed by media endlessly while members of parliament stand up and say that we're the most dangerous people on the planet because we're committing sex crimes. When, of course, no court anywhere in all of the countries which I've been investigated under has managed to convict us of any crime. At the same time they are doing this, at the same time we have members of parliament standing up and saying my brother and I are dangerous. They are sitting on information, sitting on clear evidence of a link between members of the elite inside of Western governments and a convicted pedophile. And to me, it seems absolutely ridiculous that they're going to come along and accuse two young brothers, two guys from a council estate in Luton who have never been convicted, and say that we're the enemy and talk about us in question time while ignoring information they've had for over a decade, linking senior members of British government directly to a convicted pedophile.
That double standard.
I think anybody with a brain at home understands this reeks of monumental corruption.
Well, I certainly think, I've drawn a line on the Epstein scandal in terms of plausible deniability for people in public life, because so many people, public figures, have been connected with him, that there is a qualitative difference to me between the people who disowned him after his conviction in 2009 for being a paedophile who abused an underage girl, and for those who then stayed in contact with him. And many of the people we're seeing toppling like dominoes, whether it's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Lord Mandelson, and others, are people who emphatically denied staying in contact with him. And now we see from the files that that is actually a lie, and they continue consorting with him for many years afterwards. Do you see that distinction? In other words, take your situation. If you were to be convicted of what are some very serious offences that you've been charged with, if you were to be convicted, and it's hypothetical, I accept that, and you must go through fair due process.
I mean, I have, is this considered a hot take? I think the lover boy method is absolute bullshit. What is the lover boy method? You talk to a girl, she really likes you, you convince her to do what? You pimp her out? Is that what you're telling me? So she has sex with other men because she loves you so much? That's the lover boy method? What is that even? It's almost like that got placed into law as language to be used by the powers to be to put certain men away? Make it easier to frame up people for some shit? Lover boy method? We're supposed to be living in an egalitarian society, right? So is there a lover girl method of a guy getting raped out of all his money, out of all his assets by a woman? Is there legal recourse for a man to jail a woman for that? Do women have any agency in society today, or are we all just LARPing as equality? That's crazy to me. Lover boy method. He made her fall in love. She then started selling her body. She got trafficked. She was told to go to this place and have sex with this guy. And she was totally not of her own volition in any way whatsoever. No agency. Nothing. That's the message we're sending. That blows my mind when I hear some shit like that. This is probably why they were having trouble convicting him, because the so-called lover boy method language they were trying to pin on him. You had the girls that were getting interviewed by the psychologist, and they were like, no, we did what we wanted. No, he didn't make me do anything. No, we were never trafficked. No. And they're like, shit, we can't convict him. These women they're not even testifying against him. No shit. Western law is such a joke.
And it should happen faster than it's happening. I've said that. But if you were to be convicted, would you think it's fair and reasonable of people in that eventuality to say, I want nothing more to do with Andrew Tate, and to be judged accordingly? And conversely, if people decided to carry on, being your friend and doing business with you, whatever it may be, they should be judged accordingly too?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And you've also been very fair to me. I have to give you credit for repeatedly pointing out that I've not been convicted and that you believe in the rule of law and we should wait for a conviction. The problem here we have is that we see all of our democratic institutions are absolutely corrupt. How can Peter Mandelson be promoted to the most important political position that perhaps exists inside of the UK government, which is ambassador to the United States of America, when he has such clear links to a convicted pedophile? Why was he promoted? Is it because of his clear links to a convicted pedophile, which is a whole another question? And now you're asking me, do I trust the UK courts? Do I trust the systems which are hiding information that they have on pedophiles, which are clearly protecting powerful people, which are clearly engaged in a two-tier policing structure? Do I now trust them to give me a fair trial? The whole point of democracy is transparency. The whole point is rule of law. And if they're applying rule of law to some people.
Smart to try to get ahead of this and paint the upcoming case as corrupt. That's a good way to angle this, by the way, for what will probably amount to, can you imagine the tabloids and the amount of publicity this case is going to get for him when he does get extradited and charged in the UK? So it's a great strategy to just say, hey, listen, it's a kangaroo court anyways. Half of you are in the Epstein files. What are you talking about? I'm the trafficker here. God knows what you've done. Is this a fair trial? That's a great way to go. Honestly, that's a good strategy.
And completely ignoring it for elites, you now have to ask yourself a question. Are the courts fair, and is the system fair at all? Please understand, my brother and I have gone through the most heinous trial by media that has happened in modern times. As I've said, we've already been punished more than most sex offenders are ever punished at all. We were locked up for a total of 4 years. We lost our business. Our bank accounts were frozen. We were unable to travel. We couldn't see our children. I missed medical appointments. Many bad things have happened. My mother had a heart attack and I couldn't be there. These people, where they had serious, credible, concrete evidence, haven't even been investigated. And these are the people who were in charge of the government.
And by the way, they've said a lot of stupid shit too, especially his old little Hustler University classes or all that shit, like Hustler pimping degrees or whatever they told on themselves how they were using these women. They've also said other shit that gets people against them, dumb shit. Recently, I saw that Andrew Tate said something about, and he was talking about Tristan, a joke, how he doesn't take single mothers out to dates. And he was talking about a woman he impregnated and had his baby. So that woman was asking him to go to a date for a restaurant, and he ended up taking some other woman to that restaurant. That girl got mad. His baby mother got mad at him. So they say stupid shit on occasion to turn people against them. And they lead a very materialist lifestyle, which is a turn off also if you're trying to go, like true woke anti-system. And so that shit doesn't help their case when they do stuff like that, say shit like that, go on podcasts and just make openings for the very people that are trying to bring them down. A lot of that stuff is just going to get played in court, unfortunately for them. So they're not perfect. I'm not condoning or, not condemning either. I'm just saying, based on what the system is set up to do to men today and the lifestyle that they were leading, they made themselves easy targets.
So Piers, as a logical person, to answer your question, can I trust anything the British government does when they're clearly running cover for people that they have serious evidence on, while endlessly attacking me and mentioning my name in the media and mentioning my name in question time when they don't even have any evidence on me and they've struggled to find a conviction for the last 5 solid years? To me, that reeks of governmental corruption.
Well, I think it's a perfectly reasonable question if I'm in your shoes. Yeah, because you've not been convicted of any crime. The interesting thing about Mandelson is you have the British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer today admitting in Prime Minister's questions that he did know because of the vetting process that Mandelson had continued in a friendly relationship with Epstein that was ongoing. And despite that, he still appointed him as one of the most powerful people in his government as the UK ambassador to the United States. And that, I think, is going to be an extremely damaging, was going to be very damaging for Starmer, because that's the first admission that he knew that Mandelson and Epstein had continued being friends up to the point, well, we don't know to what final point, but certainly right up to near to when he died. So there you've got somebody in Mandelson's case who twice had to resign from governments in disgrace over various financial skullduggery. And then you have him supporting and staying friendly with a convicted paedophile, and the British Prime Minister, knowing they had stayed in touch and it was an ongoing friendship, and still making him the ambassador. I find that crazy.
Well, the optimistic view is the one you've just taken, that he got his position despite the fact he was linked to an international pedophile ring. Of course, the more realistic view is that he got his position because he was linked to an international pedophile ring. And I think a lot of people are waking up now to the absolute rot which exists inside of these democratic countries that we're supposed to believe in. We're supposed to believe in fair elections, a rule of law, and transparency. And it's becoming clear to everybody at home that they have been lied to, that the rule of law doesn't apply. Two-tier policing is clearly taking place depending on your social status. If you're a young man from Luton, they'll trial you by media and throw you in jail and take all of your money without credible accusation. But if you're a lord, perhaps, they can sit for over a decade on credible evidence of you spending time with a pedophile on a secret island and refusing to even investigate you, let alone slander you in the media, let alone. And I think this just shows.
Not even the lords, though, the grooming gangs, the immigrants, the afraid of being called racist, the amount of girls that have been assaulted, brutalized, and raped and groomed by the gangs, and the cops were privy with information, had proof, knew exactly who were the perpetrators, didn't pursue the cases, swept them under the rug. Multiple people in Parliament asked for investigations to be open, still swept under the rug. So, I mean, the hypocrisy, it's systemic.
How rotten our democratic systems have become, and how much change needs to take place for anybody to believe in any of the rule of law again. I, after the Epstein file release, have even less faith in the British judicial system, the British courts, or the British police, because for me, they're going to contact everyone I've ever known. They're going to go through my phones, cameras, laptops, arrest me 5 times, arrest the mothers of my children, arrest my mom, raid houses, and struggle to find a single shred of evidence that allows them to convict me. However, when they have piles and piles of data of credible evidence that crimes have taken place against other people of a different social status than I, they are going to sit there completely protected by the state. So it shows that these democracies that we live within are completely corrupted from head to toe. And without a rule of law, then what is a democracy?
You all know the story of Camelot, the Round Table. I feel so strongly about Mandelson because I've known him 30 years. I knew him as one of the architects of New Labour in the mid-90s. And the thing about Mandelson, he was always drawn to money and rich, famous, powerful people. That was his massive Achilles heel. But in terms of him now, the stuff that's coming out, and is still coming out, but what...
I wouldn't call him a controlled op. Yeah. I don't think you can say he's a controlled op because of the apology tour, because the humiliation rituals that they're putting him through. And the way he's trying to navigate it is somebody that's not a controlled operative. This isn't somebody that has plot armor and they're going to be fine. Like this, there's a fear that now that he has. Before it was a big, bombastic, classic Tate energy, but now it's a lot more reserved, calculated, because in the UK, there's a real possibility they're going to jail him for years.
What we now know is that
Yeah, the kick stream will be available. Yeah. The VOD is live right after we end the stream, so you can just watch it whenever you want.
He was the business secretary in our government and was trading and passing on top secret information that was financially incredibly sensitive to Epstein, a convicted pedophile, multi-millionaire US financier. God knows what Epstein then did with that, with his financial friends.
But it's his fault. And since the humiliation ritual is the final step in making a joke of the men's rights movement, it has nothing to do with the men's rights movements. This is simply a man that attained a level of wealth and fame so rapidly. He's the most Googled man on the planet at one time. and you invite a certain level of scrutiny. Now, he stepped on a lot of toes to reach those heights of influence, and he said a lot of shit that pissed certain people off that were in power, and the people in power don't like it when they lose influence, because influence is power. And he's correct about that he had the ears of millions of young men, which is a threat to the system. So they try to make an example out of him. Well, unfortunately, he made it very easy to attack him. This is what happened when I tell you guys this, like hanging out with whores is a detriment. Yes, it's cool. Like, you know, Clavicular is a perfect example of a dude. He's living a life right now that is, he's essentially living the life I was living when I was telling you guys about like the college years and hookup culture and all that shit, constantly going out partying every day of the week, the women and all this stuff. But I didn't have the fame and the reach and the influence. That adds a certain dynamic to everything that makes you very vulnerable to people that want to see you go away. So what's happening to Tate is essentially getting punished for hanging around the whores, you know, doing and saying degenerate shit. Low quality women around you have destroyed many empires men have built. And you make it too easy. This is why ignore whores. Stop hanging around these bitches, these bimbos from Instagram. Yes, getting laid is great. It's nice. The fact that you have so many different women, but they're low quality. Most of them are garbage in bed. Most of them are a headache. You don't even want to be around talking to them unless your dick is in their mouth. I'm just being completely honest with what it's like. But when you reach this level of fame and success and you have women throwing themselves at you, and it's literally like, it's like breathing air. There's no effort. It's pussy arrives at your door like you just ordered an Amazon package. So when it's that easy and accessible for a man, of course you're going to take it. It takes a different level of self-control and discipline. And so what's happening is now, because you've allowed the opening, now you're vulnerable and now they're going to destroy you. And they've been trying to destroy him. Hopefully Clav doesn't get in the same problem. Because I see little clips of his stream and I see that and I'm like reliving vicariously through him and I laugh at the shit I'm seeing and I'm like, swear to God, I went through this already. It's funny as shit. I hope he doesn't have a situation in the very near future where some woman is going to say he did something he didn't do. And then that's it, dude. He's toast. And that's how they're going to get and completely destroy all the fun he's having, the lifestyle he's living. I hope he makes it out in one piece in the other end. Because ironically, of all these dudes in the manosphere, red pill, all this bullshit, Clav is the one that has the highest chance of actually living a traditional lifestyle. I'm going to call it here first. I guarantee you that once this kid gets it out of his system, he's one of the few men that are going to be able to get it out of their system. And he'll have a keen eye for what to see about a good woman or not. And I guarantee you that if he makes it out of one piece, after all the drugs, after all the women, after potential accusations in the future and all this shit, because he's going to rapidly approach, I guarantee you right now, I know the exact trajectory he's on. I've been there. This shit is going to get boring quickly. It's gotten too easy. He's literally going to any club, doing whatever he wants. He has dozens of women that are throwing themselves at him. The chase is gone. The lion is no longer satisfied. I'm telling you right now, I've been there. If he hasn't even arrived there already, I'd be shocked if he's not already there where that shit is just boring to him now. The fun is gone. And so once that chase, that dopamine is gone, he's going to have to elevate somehow and find something else. Now, hopefully he finds something positive and he doesn't swirl the drain down in something negative. I would love to see him escape that trap that so many men get caught up in. And if he comes out the other end, dude, it's going to be epic. If he makes it in one piece, I'm telling you, you're going to see what you saw with like that funny shit where the women are claiming to be trad, but they're just straight whores. He's going to actually end up being the dude that was a straight womanizing player that is now like, imagine him with like kids and a family. And yeah, hopefully he ascends successfully. I got my fingers crossed for him. Hopefully he does well because I see a lot of myself in him, everything he's doing, and it just makes me laugh hard as watching his stream. I could not put up with all that shit. I'm too old for that, but at his age, it's amazing. It's funny as fuck. So I'm hoping for him. I do. It'd be funny if he makes it out. I hope he makes it out.
Did he make more millions? Quite likely. We don't know. I'm sure that will all unravel. But he was doing this, which is an act of absolute treachery. And I saw Starmer in the House of Commons today.
Oh, yeah. But he will be the one. I guarantee you, out of all these like manosphere types, he'll be the one that'll end up in that traditional relationship with like that traditional submissive woman and that kind of lifestyle. But there's also a curse to having the eye and the experience that he has, because he's going to start looking at all women. Look, dude, you're surrounded by whores, and that does damage you. Like he's going to get tested. There's going to be really good women that he's going to come across. The inclination to paint them as whores, as the same garbage as the majority of the women that he's with right now, is very strong. And it's going to damage his ability to trust women because of the shit he sees and that he's going to be a part of on the other side as the guy on the other side. Those chicks all have boyfriends. Some of them will probably be married. He's going to see things that is going to turn his heart black to that kind of shit. So there's going to come a point where he comes, and those women are very rare. So when you come across a decent woman, but you've seen too much, it f***s your ability up to judge properly. So hopefully, I've had that happen to myself a bunch of times. So hopefully, he's able to see clearly in that sense. It'll be interesting to follow his journey for sure.
Really going after Mandelson. I'm like, well, that ship has sailed. You knew what you were dealing with here. This guy had twice had to resign from government. You knew he carried on seeing a convicted paedophile, perhaps right up to Epstein's death. And notwithstanding that, and notwithstanding you didn't know the nature of what they were doing in this ongoing friendship, you take this massive punt of putting him on the global stage again. And that's why, Mandelson, to me, he is facing criminal prosecution and very likely a lengthy prison sentence. It's hard to think, actually, of a more obvious case, a more prima facie case of corruption in public office than what he did. He sold this country down the river, giving secrets to a convicted pedophile in America.
And here's the real interesting question, sir, because it clearly is high treason. The interesting questions are, firstly, how did Jeffrey Epstein get so rich? Because nobody can seem to answer that question. Right. I sit here and wonder, while our elites of Western governments are continually making decisions which go against the will of 95% of the electorate on repeat. Nobody in the UK wants all of their tax money sent to Ukraine. We have enough problems in England. Nobody in the UK wants the small boats to keep arriving, yet they keep arriving. So we have a democratic system which is clearly completely corrupted. There's clearly compromise on all of the elites inside of our system. These people are clearly financing pedophiles on the other side of the planet, making them billionaires. And they're making decisions that nobody is voting for and that nobody wants. And then to try and deflect and conflate, they take my brother and I and they say that we're dangerous. Or now we have Keir trying to sell Mandelson down the river, just as you quite correctly pointed out, when he made the decision himself. Our systems are completely corrupted from head to toe, and Epstein is only the tip of the iceberg. There are many other secret societies, many other islands, and many other places where these people convene. And that's where conversations are happening, which completely subvert the will of democracy and subvert the will of the electorate. And I have to give credit to Donald Trump himself, although it may have got him some smoke because he does appear in the files. He at least released them, showing that he's maverick enough to try and bring some transparency back to our democratic systems. Because if Donald Trump didn't win, these conversations wouldn't even be taking place. And Keir trying to run damage control after not mentioning this at all.
So Piers Morgan will have to resort to Goon Queen when his wife gets tired of humiliation, ritualing him. No, he's never going anywhere. That's the point. That's why she stays. Part of the power play there is that she's humiliating him publicly with Mr. Suds and all that other crazy shit, and he stays. Don't you get it? That's part of the allure, is that they will grovel at your feet and never go away. That's why women keep these simps around. Yeah, a lot of guys don't understand that.
And trying to keep on a lid on it for so long just once again shows there's a lot more to this story than we know.
I mean, a few things you said there I would pick up on and challenge. There is no evidence that the majority of people in the UK do not supporting Ukraine. In fact, it's the opposite. The majority of people in the UK do support helping the Ukrainians. You're right about the small boats. On Trump, I know Trump very well. I spoke to him a few days ago. I think I want
to hear about the photo.
But I have explained that very simply. All right.
Please
So
do.
in 2013, I think it was, I went to a book launch for a guy who was editor of a British newspaper in Manhattan. A lot of starry people there, Stephen Fry, all these people. And I was introduced to a woman I didn't know called Ghislaine Maxwell. And the link was that I was editor of a Daily Mirror in the UK, which was owned by her father for many years, Robert Maxwell, who then fell off a boat and probably killed himself. Maybe not, we don't know. And I had a 5-minute conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell, and a photographer appeared and took group pictures, and then people have cut out me and her and posted it. Now, I've explained that many times. That was the only time I've met Ghislaine Maxwell, had any dealing with her. Never met Jeffrey Epstein or had any dealings with him. Certainly never went to his island or his parties or anything. That's it. So my full extent of exposure to either of them was 5 minutes at a book launch, standing there, and there happened to be a photographer, and that was 2013. So I argue.
I believe you.
I've got no problem, people. I've got no problem. Well, it doesn't really matter. That's what happened. And the point being, though, that I believe I've been 100% transparent. All I'm requiring other people to be is when similar stuff comes out about them, be equally transparent. Right. And my argument about Elon is he's saying one thing, but we're reading a different thing in the emails, which contradicts what he's saying. That is not being transparent. You know, if I said this about Ghislaine Maxwell and someone said, well, hang on, because I've got all these emails of you and her having a good old, chinwag on email or going to the island or
Yeah, but the world's not fair. What do you think? Powerful people like Elon are going to get what? Put to trial and charged? Give me a break, dude. There is such a thing as being above the law when you are that high, that important to society. Do you know how much money he makes people? Do you know, like, the people that would be prosecuting him are opening up a can of worms, especially with the administration? You can be too big to fail. You can be too big to prosecute. It's a thing. This is not not in a just society, in a real democracy. That's not supposed to exist, but it does. For example, what is the most prolific traitor in the history of human beings? It's an old bag of bones, right? Everybody knows who I'm talking about when I say that. She literally, I'm not going to name her. You know who I'm talking about. That's how funny it is. That's how everybody knows. They literally have stock traders that watch the trades that she does. The most prolific trader of all time that has made hundreds of millions of dollars is a old hag. And she beat out the best of Wall Street. Yeah, good old NP. The Pelosi stock tracker. Just watch it and do what she does and you're going to make money. If you're allowed to do that out in the open, you think people like Elon or whoever else or all these other powerful people that are well connected, really, you think the law is going to apply to them? It's crazy, man. Society's they're going to get on him about his social media. I want to see this.
I can totally understand why your PR team would do that, because you don't say a small number of women or qualify in any way. You just say women have become such lying whores. And I find that deeply offensive. I'm not even a woman. Why generalize about all women in that way? Why say women have sex, then cry rape so often? The real victims. Why not phrase it in a way that might engender some empathy for your situation, rather than actually make every woman who hears that think that you hate women, you're a misogynist, you think they're all liars,
going on, Kevin?
they all cry rape. Why talk in that generalized inflammatory language?
Well, it may shock you to believe that women absolutely love me and my largest fans are women and I'm approached every day by women. I don't say things to try and elicit sympathy for myself, Piers. I made a brand on saying what I believe to be true, even if it's shocking, even if some people find it confrontational. My point is that we have a massive scandal.
Yeah, the problem is this is the feminization of society. Piers is a complete femme cuck. You can't even speak without getting tone police. Like, why don't you just say it in a more palatable way for society? You get people on your side. Why don't you shut the up? It's the truth. It's how men communicate. If you want to be straight-laced about it and just say, women are whores, then you can say whatever the fuck you want to say. It's so stupid. You got to tone police and like, it's for this group. But what about this marginalized group here? You can't say that. Bro, and then words mean nothing. And so we can't say what we're thinking, what's on our mind, because somebody is going to get offended. And everybody gets offended about something. And so we can't have a real conversation. And then what's the point of talking then? Okay, so then can we all just pretend it's all bullshit? All right, then. On your merry way. What's the point of doing the interview? This is what's wrong with society today. How are we going to fix things if we can't have a proper conversation about uncomfortable truths because somebody said it in a certain way you don't approve of? So dumb.
Now, where
So
genuine
feminine.
victims exist, where we have compromise on the highest levels of government, and we have women who are wasting police time with false accusations, and many men's lives have been ruined by exactly that. And it's disgusting because rape, I have many daughters, is probably the most heinous of all crimes that exists on the planet. And you like to believe that if a woman cries rape.
Okay, but you also know that only in the UK, about 1% of all rape cases are successful. 99% do not lead to conviction. You must accept that that also is outrageous and shocking and has to change.
Well, that's outrageous if the 99% are genuine rape claims, of course. We can't try and get the number up without evidence. My point is, of that 99%, how many are fake? We don't know. We live in a world now where, very unfortunately, women can get huge financial gain, and they can also get huge social media gain by falsely accusing men who never did anything. And that makes it extremely difficult for the judicial authorities and the police to find true victims. If we didn't have all these fake rape claims being given to the British police all day, perhaps they'd have more interest. I doubt it, but they'd certainly have more time in investigating a serious pile of evidence of over 6 million files of people who are spending a lot of time with a convicted pedophile. These things are not mutually exclusive. Of course, we need to try and prevent any kind of fake accusation of crime happening, of course. And of course, crying wolf makes it more difficult to discern what is true and what is not true. But it is very clear that huge piles of evidence exist here inside of the Epstein files, which have been ignored. And it's not only because of fake rape claims, it's because of systemic
6
corruption
million mentioned
inside of our democratic systems. And the democratic system has all of the resource it needs to come
6
after
million,
the
give
people
or
like
take.
myself who highlight these corruptions, as opposed to trying to fix the problem.
Yeah, but on the one hand, your position is that the Epstein files, they should be all released. These awful men should be held to account. Blah 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 blah.
I think that all men should be investigated, sir.
Okay, but on the other hand, you then say, but the problem with the Epstein files is women have become such lying whores, it's impossible to take any of these unsubstantiated claims seriously.
Because it is. Have you look, he's not trying to be edgy when he says that, although yes, it gets clicks. If you've dealt with modern women and saw what the average woman acts like today, especially in the age range that he's talking about, you get an early 20s, late teens woman, 19, 20, 18. If you talk to so many of them, like Tate is one of the ones that has probably a lot of experience with this, and anybody else successfully dating today will tell you that they almost all think the same, that they're almost all susceptible to exactly this kind of personality defect. That's what he's saying. But how could peers know, Mr. Tikka Masala, Mr. I'm over here vacuuming on Instagram, Mr. Suds gives it to my woman, I don't. Like, how do you tell this guy how susceptible women have become to the brainwashing of hating men, of like using their pussies to get ahead, of selling sex, of like thousands of bodies, of, you know, being completely selfish and morally bankrupt? Like, you don't know until you've dealt with so many of them.
How do you square those two positions?
It makes it very difficult for a judicial authority when they get a claim of rape, knowing that 99% never lead to conviction, to take them as seriously as they should. So this is a two-pronged attack. Of course, the police need to heavily investigate every single accusation of rape, as they did on my brother and I. Of course, they took that extremely seriously and failed to reach conviction. They should.
You're inferring that the 2,000 women. You're inferring that the 2,000 women who've made allegations about Epstein and other men involved with Epstein, that none of their claims can be taken seriously.
That's not actually what I'm inferring. What I'm inferring is that when you understand information warfare, and you understand how important it is for them to try and shape a narrative to save themselves, if one of those women have lied, they're going to take her story, prove it's a lie, amplify it, and try and discredit all of the women who have actually told the truth. That's why it's so important that women do not lie to judicial authorities about things like rape, because it's extremely
But
important.
why
that we
don't
get to
you
the bottom
talk
of
more
these.
respectfully? All right, but why don't you talk more respectfully about women in general?
Tone policing again.
But save your anger for the small minority of women who do what you say they do. It's not the vast majority of women. You know it, and I know it. It's not like all women that make these allegations are making it up. You know that, and it's the way you talk in this generalized
Being hyperbolic, like you
is
don't get
why
it.
people think you're a misogynist and hate women. And you may work. I don't know if you are or not. But I do know that when you use language like this, which even your PR team then take down. I mean, look, another one you posted that they took down. I presume they took it down. You can clarify. You said, "I miss human trafficking. The emotions ran high. Been chasing dopamine ever since."
Yeah,
If you can't tell, it's a joke.
I think you're aware that the internet has changed
Jesus
a lot across
Christ.
the last 5 years, and that the entire nature of
But you have a tweet here. Let me pull it up like a fucking boomer and shit, like adjust the glasses. I missed human trafficking, the dopamine. Could you see how that gets misconstrued as you? Come on. What the fuck are we doing? Oh my God. Really?
conversations has changed. And it's hyperbolic to highlight exactly how ridiculous it is that I was accused
What
of human
the
trafficking
fuck,
in the
bro?
first place, while we have members of the Labor government, which are spending time on an island with a convicted pedophile. And everybody
That's
else at
insane.
home understands that. The internet is heavily hyperbolic. It's heavily sarcastic. This is the way the internet currently functions. So I don't think anybody at home really believes, one, that I'm a human trafficker. I've yet to meet anybody in real life who said anything other than they're trying to stitch you up, Andrew, for highlighting their corruption. And secondly, even if I was somehow convicted of human trafficking, that people would believe that I'm going to tweet that that's what I want to do. It's called sarcasm. I'm sure you understand it very well. The nature of the internet has changed.
Why did you take it down? Or was it your...
And
who took it down?
I'm answering the question. And these gotcha moments are 5 or 6 years out of date. Nobody cares anymore about these gotcha moments. Everybody knows that I've been completely unfairly treated by the judicial authorities, that my business and my reputation has been slandered by the exact people who were doing the crimes.
Well, hang on. What do you mean? Okay, let's unpick this. What do you mean by gotcha moment?
By you saying you tweeted this sarcastically and you can't say that. I don't think anybody's interested in this anymore. We have a much bigger and more.
I didn't know
concern.
whether it was. I didn't know what you were doing with this tweet.
Get the
All I
fuck
read
out
is
of
what
here.
you wrote, and then
Come on. Do you see this? This like some low level trap game he's playing here. I didn't know. You're gonna have to clarify for me. Are you like, have you been on the internet at all? You have a Twitter account. You're active on it. I see your posts. You want to pretend like you can't understand hyperbole? Weren't you a journalist of some sort? Even if it was a lowly, what's the lowest form of a journalist? Tabloid? Seriously? We're going to pretend like you're going to have to clarify the sentence you wrote on X, a platform that's known for hyperbolic statements that pisses people off because it increases engagement. Like, we have to explain the internet to boomers? Holy really? This is the hit job they got going out on him right now? Golly, bro. Do better. Even if you're a Tate hater, you're watching this interview and you're going, I hate this guy, and do a better job of actually trying to stitch him up and make him look evil. At least. Sakes, man. Make it present something more palatable than you're going to have to clarify this tweet. No wonder he absolutely failed when it came to Nick Fuentes, and, you know, he got dunked on so bad. It was horrible. It was a horrible look for Pierce. Too soon? What, too soon? Like, when you have somebody that just doesn't back down and doesn't give a fuck, this whole boomer, takedown style of like, you're going to have to clarify and walk back your statement. It's not the 50s and the 60s anymore. No one's walking back statements on the fucking internet. Nobody cares. Walk these nuts back in your mouth. What are you talking about? It's insane.
Deleted, right?
And it falls flat to the audience too. Like, how many boomers are watching his show? Like, any millennial, any Gen Z, Gen Alphas that are catching this, like, everybody knows what the fuck that means. You're gonna have to clarify that. Like, how out of touch are you?
Which infers either. Well, who deleted it first of all?
I understand if you don't understand sarcasm. My point is, we have a much more pressing
who deleted
issue.
it? But who deleted it?
While I was asleep, members of my staff deleted the tweets, and I perhaps,
why,
in my bid to fight the UK government to the very end, perhaps where I'm so pressing on the point of truth, perhaps where I try and highlight how corrupt and how disgusting these people truly are, perhaps it would be more sensible for my own freedom to not tell the truth about.
Yeah, but yeah, I think somebody was saying if Tate was a controlled op earlier. No, it's Piers. Piers is a controlled op. Piers is a classical controlled op. He only blows when the wind changes at the very end on topics where he has to maintain relevancy. That's what a controlled op does in order to have some credibility left, in order to shape the narrative of the future. He did that with Gaza and calling it a genocide, only when he couldn't anymore deny that. Yeah, he is a classical controlled op. Same shit with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is a very weird. I like his show and I love his monologues and I do watch it, but I watch it. I am very privy to the fact that absolute controlled opposition. You don't name the names that should be named, especially with the Epstein files recently. And all these other people like Candace and what's that other dude? That other white guy who's got like the mustache sometimes. I forget what his name is. They give me very controlled op vibes. It's just strange. These people come out of nowhere. Not Matt Walsh, although Walsh is very much so in the system. No, it's not. It's the other one that does straight conspiracy theories. I forget his fucking name. He was new on the scene. He blew up on TikTok. What the fuck was his name? If you guys know what his name is, I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember. Anyways, they give off that exact feeling, just the way they speak and how they cover topics and how, like Epstein is a good litmus test for people, the Epstein file release. Anybody that says it has anything to do with Russia, controlled op. Anybody that won't name his ties to Israel or Mossad, ops. Anybody that is blatantly ignoring certain uncomfortable truths about his ties to, say, Israel, say, Mossad, say, Ian Carroll. Yes, that was the one. Yep. Ian Carroll. Very strange. These people are strange. And the topics that they're covering is very weird too, by the way. Like, they're going off on the deep end. It's almost like they've captured a market that Nick Fuentes has found a market and a ton of influence with people and a ton of credibility for being correct on a lot of geopolitical issues. What happened was I wouldn't say co-opted him, but almost took wind out of his sails by interviewing him, capturing some of his audience, that energy he had, and then almost like flooded the zone with shit. So disavowed him after his interviews, and what they did was they started covering increasingly like belligerent, weird, esoteric topics like aliens and pyramids and energy weapons and trap doors and the afterlife and some crazy shit like that. Yeah, poisoning the well is essentially what they're doing. After capturing a part of his audience and gaining some credibility by interviewing him and coming across as, I guess, reasonable and light with him on the interview, they try to hijack his niche. And now what they're doing is completely flooding the America First cohort with absolute slop, bro. Energy weapons and aliens and which is destroying the credibility of the movement, which then opens up the door in the future to, hey guys, this has gotten out of control. We need to regulate the internet. You can't be saying crazy shit like this. Look at how far it's gone. And then boom, you clamp down on your ability to, question narratives and shit like that. So I think it was a play from on high, deep state, whatever you want to call it, to co-opt him, make him go public, steal his energy, take the wind out of his sails, and then flood it with shit so that he seems crazy. And I've watched his last few episodes. He's doing a pretty good job, especially with the Epstein files. I still got to finish that. He's doing a very good job of staying grounded in the facts and fact-checking a bunch of the narratives that are out there and a lot of the fake shit that have come along with the Epstein files too, which is maintaining his credibility in this up period of disinformation, misinformation. What name would you give it? Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to see it happen too.
some of these things and
From
not be
all
so
angles.
pressing and not and go away and be quiet, because that's what they've been trying to make me do since the absolute
Well,
beginning.
that wouldn't be the
But
point I would make. No, I don't think that's what your PR team was saying. I presume they were reading the words, "I miss human trafficking. The emotions ran high. Been chasing dopamine ever since." You know, I don't think it's a gotcha of me to read back your own words and to ask you what you mean by them, given that your own PR team deleted them.
It's clearly sarcastic and hyperbolic, and I think that to sit here and talk about tweets which are sarcastic as opposed to the systemic corruption that exists inside of all of our democratic institutions is probably a waste of time. We can talk about it for the rest of this interview. But clearly what's far more interesting is the fact that we have a ruling class which is ignoring.
Now, you know what they're doing? Because someone says Fuentes needs to be more of a subversive, controlled op. No, I think what they're doing is they figured out that you can't ban people anymore. They failed with Tate. They failed with Fuentes, and they'll fail with anybody else that they try to ban or deplatform. That doesn't work anymore. You martyr them on the internet. So the only way that you can actually take someone down is, how do you say, redistributing their energy away from them. Almost like Tate would say, a keto, some shit like that. It's informational redistribution. And the only way you can do that is by exposing yourself to them and their audience and then taking them into another direction, right? Like, imagine cattle, sheep that are being herded. You take two cattle dogs. You have one cattle dog that is Fuentes, and he's herding all the sheep into a certain direction. But then if you introduce another cattle dog to help him herd the sheep, you can start to divide the sheep in different directions. Now, what happens is you're able to take a bit of his influence and his power while platforming him. I think this is the new, I would call, like, grand strategy that they have for taking the sales out of people that, the deep state doesn't want to have too much influence and power. And I think that strategy is far more effective because, if there was no Candace, there was no Ian Carroll, there was no Tucker doing what Tucker's doing now, he's still on Fox News or whatever. Yeah, siphoning energy away from them. His reach would be much larger, but they've managed to carve out a piece of his influence. And whoever watches Candace and whoever that audience is, whoever's watching Tucker now and that audience is, whoever's watching Ian Carroll and whoever that audience is, and they're all vying now for a piece of that pie. So it's just a redistribution, a informational siphoning, if you will. It's a great way to take someone's power and voice off of the internet without actually martyring them. Yeah.
Ignoring the electorate completely. There's two-tier policing taking place. People are spending time.
So, for example, Tate, the way to stop, at least Tate, remember, if they were to use the same strategy on Tate years ago when he had massive influence, how would you do it? You wouldn't ban him. You would allow him to be on platforms. You would then platform him, but have somebody that is like a Tate, right? But just disseminates information differently. So you have a Tate 2.0, think like a Tucker. They say a lot of the same shit. They say the funny things like, what color is your Bugatti? But Tate 2.0, the deep state version, the controlled op, starts to say really unsavory, crazy shit. Start to get into some really weird esoteric topics. Start to say things that are super off-putting. Starts to flood the zone with absolute garbage, slop, low-tier information that puts people off, or redirect some of that energy by saying things in a certain way that captivates an audience. So you don't ban the guy, you just almost try to make him irrelevant because you're taking so much of the wind out of his sails. That's how they could have dealt with him. They could have got somebody else like him to do what he does, just like what Tucker represents, but in a different fashion to redirect that energy. Yeah.
Pedophiles and sending them billions of dollars.
But you forever martyred him, and now this is why he's going to be famous forever. And he has permanent. He's achieved a level of permanence. His influence is never going to go away because they try to cancel him, and that's a mistake. You see, if you don't cancel somebody and you manage to siphon off their influence, you can get them to become irrelevant at one point.
And me highlighting in a hyperbolic and sarcastic way how ridiculous it is that two young boys from Luton were accused of human trafficking, slandered, investigated, and put in jail, while none of these people face 1% of the punishment my brother and I have been through. I think that highlighting that ridiculousness is actually quite important. It is absolutely insane that my brother and I have been investigated more heavily than anybody else inside of those files.
Let's turn to another controversy you were involved in recently. This was the night you went to a nightclub in Miami with Nick Fuentes, Myron Gaines, Sneeko, and Clavicular.
Here we go.
You all came
Christ.
under heavy criticism because in the van that you were traveling in with people live streaming from it, you were playing Kanye West's song Heil Hitler. And that song was then requested to be played once you got in the club to the
Lord.
DJ who played it unwittingly. There's been a lot of backlash.
Why was
this,
the DJ?
as you know.
Let's be professionals, Piers. Why was the DJ unwittingly? What, he was unaware of what the song was?
Well, he claims to have been unaware of what he was playing. So we'll come to that in a moment. Let's go through chronologically what happened here. Whose idea was it to play that song in the van?
Well, I didn't play the song in the van. And the great thing about this entire event is that it was live streamed and you could see me say, "What is this?"
Right.
and leave the van quickly. I also think it's pretty ridiculous for us to, once again, as we highlight that all of our institutions are completely corrupted to the core by satanic pedophiles, and completely ridiculous for us to sit here and ignore a genocide that just took place and complain about a song being played. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's okay.
Well, we're
the song's
complaining.
played.
Well, hang on. We're complaining about it's ironic because we're complaining about a song being played that idolizes Adolf Hitler, who waged one of the all-time worst genocides against the Jewish people. So actually, it couldn't be more relevant. I'm glad you mentioned the genocide word. So let's just stick to what happened because I'm curious. You're all in this van. The word is that it was Sneeko that put the record on in the van. Is that correct?
I believe it was Sneeko. It certainly wasn't me. Somebody else played it, and it's all on video. I'm sure that you and your team can do an investigation and work out who it was. And by association, being in a van when someone else plays a song, to try and grill me for that, considering that you were at a book launch and accidentally took a picture with somebody who's now in jail for pedophilia, you understand very well sometimes you're just in a place and something
But I'm not
happens.
judging you. I'm not judging you in any way. I'm asking you what happened. This is your chance to clarify what happened. You have sort of clarified it in other interviews. So again, it's easy to characterize what I'm doing as a gotcha. I'm not after a gotcha. This thing happened. It got well reported. You got hammered along with all the others for it. I'm just asking you, in your words, to clarify what happened, right? So you said, unless I misheard you earlier, you said that the moment you heard this being played, you didn't like it and you got out of the van. Why didn't you like this record being played?
Well, I think the best thing for people to do at home, if they're interested in this, instead of the satanic pedophiles which are ruling their lives, if they find this far more interesting, that the entire event takes place on video and they can watch it themselves.
Yeah, but why don't you just answer my question? That's the easiest way.
Why would I answer the question when people can look up the video and they can watch it themselves and come to their own conclusions? And anybody who is more concerned about the fact I was in a van when someone else played a song as opposed to the fact they're ruled over by demonic pedophiles, well, then they can raise that with me. I think there's far more pressing concerns. I think there's far more interesting things happening in the world. I think we're living in a system which is completely corrupted. I think we're living in an empire of lies. I think our votes are not real. The judicial system's not real. The media isn't real. The education system isn't real. They're lying to us. They're scamming us. They're trying to effectively genocide us in our host nations. And I don't think the fact that I was in a van when someone else played a song 1 month ago is worth our time.
Okay. But you do accept, I suppose, that for young people, but collectively you have tens of millions of people that follow you on all your social medias.
Yeah, for the statement he just made. Okay, address what he just said.
That imagery of you all apparently celebrating this song Heil Hitler, which in itself...
Oh my God, the boomer outrage at this Holocaust shit. Seriously, Jesus.
...celebrates one of the most genocidal monsters in history.
I'm literally shaking my head.
That is... Okay, so I'm asking you what
again.
your reaction is to that song, because it happens in the van. We're now looking at footage of it happening in the club. You can see the others dancing along to it.
Boys, you have no jobs. You can't get married. You can't afford a house. Taxes are crushing you. Borders are wide open. Millions of illegals are in the country. They're scamming your tax dollars, everything. Your government doesn't work. Why did you play a song? Could you see why that's offensive? You have the influence of many young men. Can you see why it would be offensive to play this song? Do you think the young men give a singular about this dumb song at all? Do you think any of them give a shit in their lives for which they're struggling right now about that song? That you think that's what the men care about today? Honestly? Oh my Lord.
To be fair to you, do not look like you're quite as celebratory of it as they are, but you're laughing and shaking your head. So what are you actually thinking as Heil Hitler is being played in that nightclub and Fuentes and Sneaker and the others are celebrating?
Yeah, I'm smiling and shaking my head because I believe it's deliberately provocative. And some people on the internet are trying to be exactly that. They want to be deliberately provocative to get clicks and get attention. With all due respect, Piers, you've been known to do it yourself. I wasn't interested in trying to be deliberately provocative. I went out because it was the first time I met some of those gentlemen. I stood in the club and repeatedly said, "This is boring. I want to leave." People can watch the video themselves. And I think it's far more interesting and far more concerning that members of our government, that our democratic institutions we're supposed to believe in, are corrupted to the core, and we're sending billions of dollars to convicted pedophiles. It's really amazing that me standing in a club playing a song or me doing absolutely nothing wrong is going to get endless media smear, me lose my companies, lose my banks, lose my passport, go to jail, locked in my house, try and take my children from me when I've never been convicted of any crime. And we're going to pretend I'm the boogeyman. Jess Phillips and Keir Starmer are going to sit here and mention that video along with other things and say I'm the boogeyman and I'm dangerous, as opposed to discuss the fact that our entire democratic institution has been infiltrated by satanic pedophiles, Piers. That is far more interesting to me. It affects far more people's lives. And it is truly disgusting that the media and its machine manages to conflate and distract and bring up garbage to take away people's attention from what truly matters in this world. We live in a democracy. The electorate should be respected. There should not be secret rooms where deals are made and decisions happen outside of the view of the electorate, with or without satanic rituals, with or without sex. And it turns out there is all of this happening, and we now have some degree of transparency, thanks very much to Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And I hope that the people who appear in the files are fully investigated to the full strength of the law, as I have been.
You know, the easier answer, far be it from me to teach you how to answer questions and interviews, is to say that you find what's in the Epstein files utterly disgusting and reprehensible.
Well, that's clear.
And you find the idea of a bunch of very well followed influencers with big influence over young men in particular celebrating the song Heil Hitler is also disgusting and reprehensible, and you wish you had not been there at the time because obviously it reflects badly on everybody involved. That's the simple answer, and if you'd said that, I could respect it. Instead, you go on a long, torturous non-answer, which makes me think, well, did you care or not?
Well, perhaps, Piers. And
Do you condemn it or not? Do you condemn it, though? Can you see how the song would hurt feelings? Do you condemn the song? But I need you to condemn it, though. Will you condemn it? Piers, condemn Morgan.
I want to be honest with you because we've spoken quite a lot of times. Perhaps after going through the hell I've been through, and it's been truly hell, after going through the endless decimation attacks, the endless slander, after going through what I've been through while witnessing a genocide in real time. Remember, I was the first person to tell you on October 9th that it was a genocide before it was popular to say that. After watching all of these things, after understanding that we're ruled over by satanic pedophiles, after understanding that our entire judicial system is corrupt, after understanding that Jess Phillips and Keir Starmer are trying to put me in jail.
Watch him say, yeah, okay. Watch.
You said all this, yeah.
While covering for pedophiles, perhaps the idea that a song played in a nightclub that I stood in, perhaps it just doesn't register on my metrics of importance. Perhaps I've just been through so much and I've seen so many terrible things are happening in the world right now that I don't think it's the biggest news story. And I really don't think it's worth your time or mine. You're an extremely well-known, established journalist. And we're talking about a nightclub playing a song 1 month ago. If a nightclub played a song about killing black people or rape or murder, which is basically every single rap song that exists, nobody would care. So I think this is all highly ridiculous. And the more important thing is that Donald Trump and Elon Musk has allowed us some degree of transparency, the tip of the iceberg into the insanity of what we believe is our democratic institutions and
right.
how corrupt they are.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I want every single person inside of the Epstein files, including the innocent people, including you, including Elon, including everyone, to be investigated to the full force of the law, because it is not down to them to admit wrongdoing. That is why we have a rule of law. Criminals do not admit they did things wrong. They go to court and they prove they did nothing wrong. And what I am saying is that the British state has plenty of time. They have plenty of time to arrest people for tweets.
Yeah, you made
they have plenty of time to arrest people for nothing. So they should be investigating this huge pile of evidence. And the real questions are these. Why did they ignore the pile of evidence for a decade? 1. 2, who paid Jeffrey Epstein and made him so rich? 3, what were they paying him for?
You made all these points, yeah.
What decisions have taken place that have affected the lives of British people?
All right, yeah, but do you condemn the song or not? You've made your point. Do you condemn it or not? Okay. Oh, man. What a joke. Godly. All right, we're done. Do you condemn it or not, chat? Do you condemn this song? You can't buy a house, but do you condemn the song? Your women have been turned to whores, but do you condemn the song, though? You can find your sister on OnlyFans for $4.99 a month, but do you condemn the song or not? Listen, I need you to condemn the song. Your nation's dying. Your people are being eradicated and replaced. But do you condemn it or not? He was really a bad guy. Are you condemning it or not? Okay? Me mums. Unreal. Unreal, dude. They're so out of touch, honestly. And not even out of touch, sorry. It's the op working. The op is redirecting your energy. The op wants you to think about not what's happening, not what was taken from you, but the latest outrage porn. Me mum. Me mum. That's it. Okay. Great.